It's strange how the smallest sentence can shake a man more than years of silence. For me, it happened on a Wednesday night, in the middle of dinner. I had just come home from a long shift. My boots still carried the dust of the construction site, my shirt damp with sweat, and I was exhausted. But I still made the effort. Picked up her favorite sushi on the way home, even grabbed the extra spicy ginger she liked. We sat at the table in silence, her scrolling through her phone, me trying to muster conversation. So I said carefully, "How was your day?" She didn't look up. "Fine." One word. Always one word. I nodded, forced to smile, tried again. "Client project still stressing you out?" "Yeah," she said flatly, still scrolling. I stared at her, the glow of her screen reflecting off her face. And for a moment, I thought about the girl I married, the one who used to laugh at my dumb jokes, who used to talk my ear off about everything and nothing, who used to greet me at the door like I'd been gone for years, even if it was just a day. That woman wasn't here anymore. And then she said it. Without looking up, without hesitation, like she was ordering off a menu. "I miss who you used to be." I froze. Chopsticks halfway to my mouth. "What does that mean?" I asked, careful study. She finally looked at me, her eyes tired, her voice sharper. "You used to be fun, spontaneous, exciting. Now you're just, work, routine, predictable." She shrugged, like she hadn't just gutted me with a few careless words. I miss that version of you." I nodded slowly, trying not to let the sting show. But inside, something shifted. Because when someone says they miss who you used to be, what they're really saying is that who you are now isn't enough. The rest of dinner passed in silence. I chewed food I couldn't taste, listened to the sound of her phone buzzing, and felt the weight of her words settling in my chest. That night, lying beside her in bed, I stared at the ceiling long after she fell asleep. My mind replayed her tone, her eyes, that shrug that cut deeper than shouting ever could. And I realized something. She wasn't just missing a version of me. She was already chasing it somewhere else. After that night, her words followed me everywhere. "I miss who you used to be." It echoed in my head at work, in the truck, even in the quiet moments before sleep. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't just a passing comment, it was a statement of where we stood. Because the truth was, I hadn't changed all that much. Sure, I worked longer hours now. Life was heavier, but I was still me. Still the man who showed up, who provided, who tried. What really changed wasn't me. It was her. Over the next few weeks, the distance between us stretched wider. She started going out more, dinners with friends, late-night drinks after work events. She'd come home at odd hours, hair styled like she'd been on a date, perfume lingering heavy in the air. Sometimes she was buzzing, laughing at nothing. Other times she was quiet, almost guilty. I noticed the little things, like how she suddenly paid more attention to her appearance before leaving the house. Dresses I hadn't seen in years came back into rotation. Her phone, once left casually on the counter, was now glued to her hand. Screen face down, notifications silenced. And when I asked about it, she snapped. "Why are you always watching me?" "God, Mark, you're suffocating." Suffocating. That word hit hard. I stopped asking. Instead, I started paying attention in silence. One Friday night, she told me she was going out with coworkers. I nodded, kissed her on the cheek, and watched her leave. 20 minutes later, I drove by the restaurant she claimed she was headed to. Her car wasn't there. I sat in the parking lot for a while, staring at the empty space where it should have been. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. But I didn't chase her. I just drove home, sat on the couch, and waited. She came back past midnight, heels dangling from her hand, lipstick smudged. She smiled faintly when she saw me still awake. "You're up." I nodded, calm. Couldn't sleep. She walked past me without another word. That was when I knew something had shifted permanently. It wasn't just distance anymore. It was deception. The next morning, she was cheerful, humming while she made coffee like nothing happened. And I sat there, watching her, thinking, she's already gone. She just hasn't said it out loud yet. But here's the thing, I wasn't going to drag it out of her. I've learned enough in life to know you don't beg someone to stay. If they want to leave, the best thing you can do is let them. Still, I wasn't ready to walk just yet. Not without seeing the truth with my own eyes. So I waited. I waited while she grew colder at home, while her laughter belonged more to her phone than to me, while her attention was always somewhere else. I waited until the night when her words would no longer just be about who I used to be. They'd be about who she'd chosen instead. And that night was coming, faster than she realized. Betrayal doesn't arrive like thunder. It arrives like a draft under a door you thought was closed. You don't notice it at first. Then one day you realize you've been cold for a long time. After she told me she missed who I used to be, the house changed temperature. Same walls, same furniture, same routines, but colder. She moved through rooms like she was only visiting. Her voice softened for strangers and sharpened for me. The man she married became the man she tolerated. I stopped filling the silence, not as a tactic, as survival. Little things started failing audits they used to pass. Her calendar forgot to match her nights out. Receipts didn't line up with the places she named. A rideshare charge ended 3 neighborhoods from any of her coworkers. When I asked lightly, she turned defensive fast. "Why are you policing me?" She snapped one Thursday, keys in her hand, perfume hanging in the kitchen like a dare. "You used to be chill." Used to. There it was again. That word she loved because it kept the blame in the past and her freedom in the present. I let it ride. Not because I believed her, but because I didn't need another argument where I handed over my dignity to get back a half answer. Instead, I studied patterns. Not with suspicion, precision. Tuesdays and Thursdays were always client nights. Saturdays became girls' nights that didn't include the girls I actually knew. She dressed with intention. Hair done like a promise. New lipstick shade I'd never seen before. The kind you don't wear for brainstorming sessions. At home, we shared chores in silence. She'd sit at the end of the couch scrolling, ankles crossed, one heel dangling. I'd read the same paragraph 3 times, hearing only the faint ticks, the refrigerator humming, the old baseboard settling, the nervous tap of her nail against her glass. When I tried to pull us out of it, she recoiled from the effort like it was an accusation. I suggested a counseling session, just one. She smirked. Therapy won't bring back the guy who used to wake me up at 2 a.m. to drive nowhere. You don't even want to be that person anymore. She was right. I didn't want to be 24 with a full tank and no plan. But the way she said it made it sound like growing up had been a crime, not a commitment. I kept my plans quiet. I separated a few finances, opened a P.O. box, made a clean folder on my laptop marked taxes, and a hidden one marked exit with scans of everything important. I wasn't planning a scene. I was planning a clean cut. 2 things happened in the same week that forced the tension into focus. First, our anniversary. 7 years. Nothing flashy, just takeout from the place we loved back when money was tight. Candles on the table because we used to pretend our apartment was a restaurant when we couldn't afford one. I set everything out, the battered ceramic plates, the cheap candles that drip faster than they burn, the playlist we made in year 1. I wasn't trying to turn the clock back. I just wanted to see if there was any clock left to wind. She texted at 6:12 p.m., running a little late. "Don't wait up, big client thing. Love you." No punctuation, no detail. A stock apology sent from a rideshare seat. I blew the candles out. Ate alone. Washed her unused plate. Second, I ran into Jenna, one of her girls, at the hardware store on Saturday morning. We both reached for the same pack of 60-watt bulbs and did that awkward dance. She laughed, then recognized me. "Mark." "Hey, stranger." "We missed you Thursday." I slipped the bulbs into my basket. "Thursday?" "Yeah, Nina's birthday? At Marco's? Leah said you were swamped." I looked at her a beat too long. "Right. Swamped." She studied my face like she wished she could take the sentence back. "Everything okay?" "Sure," I said, smiling with my mouth, not my eyes. "Just buying light." I walked to the register feeling heavier than the box I carried. Thursday had been a client night. It had also been our anniversary. That evening, I decided I wouldn't follow her anywhere. I wouldn't stalk receipts or sit outside restaurants like a detective in a rental car. I wasn't going to manufacture proof to convince a man who already knew. If the truth wanted to be seen, it would step into the light on its own. It didn't take long. The following Tuesday, she left dressed like Friday, black dress, new earrings, the kind that catch light on purpose. Late pitch, she said casually, slipping her phone into her clutch instead of her purse. Don't wait up. I didn't. But I didn't go to bed either. I sat at the table and tried to write a letter I wasn't sure I'd ever show her. A list of everything I did wrong, everything I did right, and the one thing I wouldn't do anymore. Beg. Around 10:40, my phone buzzed. A bank alert. Riverlight rooftop. $148.26. Riverlight isn't a work dinner place. It's a view and champagne place. The kind where people take photos of their glasses against sunsets like proof they were happy for 3 seconds. I shut my laptop, stared at the alert. The number sat there on the screen like a dot on a map. I didn't want to go. I also didn't want to sit in our silent house imagining a scene that would live in my head rent-free forever. So I drove. The night was clear, the city clean and sharp like it had been polished just for people who weren't me. I parked a block away and walked. The elevator to the rooftop was all glass, and the ride up felt like being lifted out of a life I hadn't agreed to leave. The host smiled that trained, expensive smile. Table for. Just looking for someone, I said softly. He nodded, and I stepped into the crowd. Rooftops are loud with whispers. Music soft, laughter soft, secrets loud. I moved slow, not hiding, not hunting, just letting my eyes adjust to the lights and the shapes. I saw her before she saw me. She was on the terrace, back to the skyline, hair pinned up like she'd planned on being seen. There was a glass in her hand, a half laugh on her mouth I hadn't heard in months. Her posture told the story, relaxed, open, lit from the inside. She wasn't alone. I couldn't see his face. He was turned slightly, body blocking the wind, that protective angle men take when they're invested. Tall, dark jacket. A watch that caught the light each time he gestured, steel, simple, with a small compass on the face. Familiar. Not because I own one, but because I'd bought that exact watch once years ago as a gift. He said something low. She reached across the small table and touched his wrist. It wasn't sexual. It was worse. It was easy. I realized my hands were in fists and forced them open. I wasn't going to make a scene. Not here. Not for them. I took one step closer, close enough to catch a fragment of her voice under the music. You make me feel like I used to. He smiled. The compass glinted. My stomach went cold. Some truths introduce themselves with fireworks. This one shook my hand politely and asked if I wanted a drink. I backed away before the wind could carry my name to her. The host glanced up as I passed. I nodded like a man who discovered what he came for and didn't need dessert. Down on the sidewalk, the city sounded different. Distant. Small. I stood there long enough for the elevator to make 2 trips and for my phone to buzz again. A text. Nolan, you around later? Need to grab that drill set from you this week. Been all over the place. Nolan. My best man. The guy who used to push me to drive to the coast at midnight just to see if the ocean still worked. The guy with the compass tattooed on his forearm and the matching compass watch because redundancy saves lives. I stared at his name on the screen until the letters stopped meaning anything. Then I slid the phone into my pocket and breathed until my lungs remembered how to work. I didn't reply. I didn't go back upstairs. I just walked to my truck and sat in the driver's seat with both hands on the wheel, the city light blinking on and off in the rearview. I didn't have faces. I didn't have words. But I had enough. Enough to know there was no version of us that survived the version of used to be she was chasing. Enough to know the conversation ahead of me would not be a debate. I drove home slow, every red light another full stop to practice the calm I would need. At the house, I packed the rest of the bag I'd been pretending not to keep. Nothing dramatic, just what a man needs when he's done lying to himself. On the kitchen counter, I left nothing. No note, no speech. Not yet. I sat in the dark living room, hands steady on my knees, and waited for the sound of heels in the hallway. When the lock finally clicked, my decision had already been made. I didn't know who I was saying goodbye to more, the woman in my wedding photos or the man I used to be when she loved me. Either way, the goodbye would happen soon. And when it did, it wouldn't be loud. It would be clean,